chapter begins at the lab stratum Egghead. Zoro and Brook are discussing about the reason they stayed on the ship. Zoro exclaims that when it comes to a government island, you gotta think about who is going to be around to bail you out if you get caught. Brook also agrees to him, saying that he was thinking the same thing. Brook then asks him for tea. As they are having tea, Caribou interrupts them. Zoro asks him that he is still here. Caribou asks for a moment of their precious time. He says that he knows their deal was to drop him off anywhere away from Wano, but he did not know they would be heading for a government island. Zoro says that he heard how Caribou helped his captain. He appreciates it and hoped to see him around. Caribou is left in shock about the fact that he has been left on the government island. He calls them jerks and exclaims that he will remember what they did. Meanwhile, the Straw Hat Pirates enter the Vegapunk lab and they all seem very excited. Usopp exclaims in excitement, "The stairs are moving." Nami says that new steps are sprouting out of the ground. Frankie questions that, what kind of setup is this and how it is powered? "Punk 02, Lilith exclaims. "You could say the whole island runs on fire." Frankie says that she can convert its power into any kind of energy and then questions, does not that burn through a load of natural resources? Lilith replies that she is always looking into alternative fuels. She further adds that if only there was such a thing as an eternal flame, then she would be able to make her very own sun. Frankie is left shocked at the word sun. Lilith passes through the wall, which leaves Frankie and the other crew members shocked. As she passes through the wall and disappears, the crew start calling Lilith and ask her to open the gate. Lilith tells them to stop shouting and quickly walk through. She tells them that they should never let their own senses dupe them. At that moment, Lilith receives a call from Edison. Meanwhile, Sanji tries sliding through the gate and passes through it. The whole crew pass through it and come inside the lab. Usopp exclaims that the gate turned back into solid metal again and questions how that works. Frankie asks about Lilith's whereabouts. They all then hear a voice that says, "You all keep going dead ahead." Sanji asks who is that. The voice tells them that he is Vegapunk Edison. He tells them to keep walking as he ordered before. They all step forward following his orders. Nami and Usopp talk to each other. Nami says, "Let's look for some future treasure." Usopp asks him what is future treasure. Nami replies that a future treasure can be a flower made entirely out of exquisite antique gems. Usopp replies that it is a weird fantasy and teases her, saying that her taste is either similar to a kid or to an old woman. Nami gets offended at his joke and gives him a kick. At that moment, they all see someone sitting in front and questions, "What are you doing here?" The person they have seen looks like Jinbei, but Robin says that she does not think that is Jinbei because he looks a little too young. Usopp guesses that he is Jinbei's son. Nami then says that it can be, but it is also possible that Jinbei has turned into a kid. Sanji exclaims that he is going with a 4 option, that it is a coincidence as the kid has got wings, and there is an ominous air about him. The crew members angrily ask the look-alike of Jinbei, that who is he? Hearing them, he stands up. Seeing him, Frankie exclaims that he may look like a kid, but he is just as big as the real Jinbei. Frankie then exclaims that he has got a bad feeling as there is a 4th possibility. He pauses for a while and then exclaims that he is a pacifista. His feeling is right as he is actually Seraphim Jinbei, known as S-Shark. S-Shark attacks the crew with a laser blast and the whole crew is sent knocking into the air. Usopp exclaims that it was a giant trap and they should have known that the government was never going to roll out the red carpet. Nami questions, does that mean they are using a clone of Jinbei as a soldier? She pulls out Zeus but is unable to fight with him considering that he is a kid. A beep sound can be heard, and the S-Shark makes his first move by diving into the ground. Nami looks in surprise at him and exclaims, "He has got fruit powers?" There is a splash of water all around Nami because of S-Shark. Zeus asks Nami that what is going on, and should it pop out to help her. Nami refuses him to come and help her. Frankie exclaims that he knows the ability. Before he could say anything, S-Shark jumps out of the water and grabs Nami's neck. He is choking her in anger. Sanji rages seeing this and warns him that he has signed his own death warrant and he does not give a crap whether he is Jinbei or not. At that moment, he gives him a fire kick S-Shark, causing him to leave Nami and bashing him backwards. Robin activates her Gigante Fleur and exclaims that what he said was unforgivable. She activates her Sea Serpent while S-Shark also prepares for an attack. She uses Snapdragon and spanks him, causing a splash. S-Shark tries to dodge her by taking some water in his hand. But before he could attack her, Osap tells Robin to get out of his way as he is using Fishman Karate. He then releases his lethal green star bomb on S-Shark. It is a skull-exploding grass bomb which creates a destruction and thrashes S-Shark away. Osap then muses that he knows the person is not Jimbei, but it still feels messed up. He then looks in front of him and sees that there is no one, and considers that he might be gone. But his peace is short-lived, as Seraphim Jimbei appears from behind him and clutches him tightly from the back. Sanji steps forward to save him, but at that moment, Frankie appears and orders Sanji and Osap to not move a muscle, and fires Radical Beam directly at S-Shark. The attack hits him directly on point, and he is unable to dodge it. The beam has resulted in a massive destruction to S-Shark. Far from there, someone from inside watches all this, and seeing the laser beam questions, "Who in tarnation is this guy?" The observer is actually a robot-like creature called as Punk 3, also known as Dr. Vegapunk Edison, whose trait is Flare. He is worried as the battle is getting risky. The Seraphim is still just a kid, and they have not meant to put it through a laser test till later. Lilith then angrily shouts at Edison. She then exclaims that does Frankie have the faintest idea how much one Seraphim costs, and angrily determines to rip his blasted skull off. Edison calms her down and says that she does not need to go that far as they are not too much evil. Edison then thinks and comes up with an idea. He exclaims that he has just got the idea of a new invention. He flies towards Dr. Vegapunk Pythagoras, the Punk 4 whose trait is wisdom, and after instructing it, leaves the rest to him. He orders him to jot down the blueprints right away. Pythagoras starts working on the blueprints. Edison shows off saying that his hands are always so full, and at this point, he would even take help from the cat. Pythagoras exclaims that he does not come across battle data this rich every day, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Let's get some input. Edison, on the other hand, keeps working on new inventions as ideas keep flowing in. He requests York to eat something for him. York gulps down a lot of food. She keeps munching, exclaiming that the food is delicious. Lilith orders the servants to bring more food for York as her current BMI is over 600. Pythagoras, on the other hand, is working on the blueprints and exclaims that the Seraphim's attack patterns have continued to develop as it grows. That suggests one's lineage factor really does store some of their recollections and capabilities. He exclaims that they should try and accelerate their growth, although that presents new obstacles. He then realizes that his green blood concentration has risen, and heart rate is up to 90 BPM. Edison, too, is feeling uncomfortable due to needing to use the bathroom. Edison, however, exclaims that it will be a time waste and leaves the task to York. York, who after finishing, is finally feeling relieved, and she grins. Not only her, but Lilith, Edison, and Pythagoras are all relaxed, too. Meanwhile, Dr. Vegapunk Atlas, Punk 2, says that she needs to punch something to help her digest. York then sleeps to complete her SDN cycle, snack, dump, nap. She is actually Dr. Vegapunk York, Punk 6, whose trait is desire. This shows that all of the Vegapunks are actually interconnected. All of them have different roles to play. Just like Pythagoras has wisdom, York is responsible for their eating and sleeping-like habits. Meanwhile, the workers at the laboratory are performing their jobs of carrying materials and getting to simulation room. After some time, Dr. Vegapunk Shaka, Punk 1 whose trait is logic, arrives there and orders Seraphim Jimbei to stop and return. One of the Straw Hats shouts that he cannot move. Shaka then turns to Lilith, Edison, and Pythagoras and says, "You three have had your fill too, right?" The three of them are angry at Shaka, but does not show up their anger. Shaka then turns to the Straw Hat Pirates and says, "You must be the Straw Hat Pirates?" Sanji replies that they are Straw Hats, and then asks him that what did he do to their shoes as they are stuck to the floor. Shaka replies that Dom's shoes can be magnetically disabled at any point while in the laboratory. Robin says that he is saying the resistance is futile, right? Shaka replies that he knows better than to let his guards down around pirates. Osap says that they have already met 2 Vegapunks. Shaka replies that he is also a Vegapunk. Osap mockingly says, "Did I forget to mention that I am Vegapunk too?" Frankie then shouts, "Would you cut it out?" Shaka then questions them that do they think this island looks like the future. Frankie looks excited and says that the island looks beyond the future as there are mechanical sea beasts, Vega Force 1 and the island Aircon 2. Frankie exclaims that he has never seen anything like the place before. He then asks him that what kind of goodies they make there as he wants to take a full tour and take it all in, and there is no way that they both cannot get along. Shaka remains quiet for a moment. He then exclaims that it is quite the contrary, as this is the island of the past. The big revelation leaves Frankie in a state of shock. Meanwhile, Luffy says to Chopper, "Check it out. Because it is rusted and stuff, one can tell that it is real metal, not another hologram." Chopper jumps in excitement. Bonnie says that could something like this really move? Jimbei, too, is surprised at how such level of tech possible for something so ancient-looking. The scene shifts to Frankie, who asks Shaka that what does he mean by past. Shaka replies that if he has to tell him, he would say that long ago, there was once a highly advanced kingdom, not unlike Egghead when it comes to technology. It was a civilization from 900 years ago. Shaka then asks Frankie, "Would you believe me?" Frankie is left in surprise, hearing this. The final scene of the chapter shows Luffy and other crewmates looking at an extremely giant robot that is actually looking like from ancient times. Luffy and Chopper want to ride the robot. The final line reveals a suspense waiting to be unraveled, that if it is really an island of the past, then how was the world back then?